Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, post-match, going over the Wimbledon men's semifinals from today. Alcaraz, Medvedev, Djokovic, Musetti. If you're not here for spoilers, click off the video. We're getting a rematch, my friends, of last year's Wimbledon final as Alcaraz prevails in 4 and Djokovic moves ahead in 3. Let's start with the first semifinal of the day. Alcaraz, Medvedev, another rematch that we saw last year, and there can be no doubt that Daniil's improvements and his adjustments were on full display as he offered way more resistance than he managed last year. He won the opening set. Alcaraz won the next 3. But with all that said about Medvedev's better showing this year, I did think Alcaraz had this one under control basically the whole time, which I know sounds a little bit strange to say in a match where the first set went to Medvedev, but my thought, look, the first set was not very convincing for me. It didn't make a very compelling argument that Medvedev had the goods to come through the match in my eyes, because I thought Alcaraz played close to his worst set possible. If 10 is the best Carlos can play and 1 is the worst, I would have given him about a 3. He served as badly as he can, and he was very erratic. He was giving a lot of errors to Medvedev. So that set went to a tiebreak. Daniil won it. I just wasn't thinking that Medvedev, unless he raised his level significantly, was going to be able to copy-paste what happened in that first set, because Alcaraz was definitely going to raise his level from there. And as soon as he did, and he shook off whatever nerves, tension, built up some confidence and some rhythm in the match, as soon as that happened for Alcaraz, he was the better player very consistently. And I want to start with the serving dynamics. I'm going to talk about the serve dynamics in both of the matches today, and on grass court tennis, of course, in general, they are more important. The serve and the return is more impactful because it is more important that you get out of the initial 2 shots in the rally, serve return, in a good offensive position on this surface, which is harder to defend on and a little bit easier to attack on. Alcaraz's second serve, it stood out to me, wasn't really getting attacked. And Carlos won 61% behind his second serve, which is an awesome number. He averaged 103 miles per hour on it. A lot of the credit goes for Alcaraz because that's a really healthy average. And when he was kicking it, it would be under that, but then there would be other times where he'd ramp it up to around 110 miles per hour. And that speed pretty much makes it impossible, especially the 110 range, for Medvedev to take the return early. He does not have the technique. He does not have the maneuverability, the short takebacks to be able to hug the baseline and take a hard second serve that Alcaraz was delivering. And I'm sure the closer Medvedev stood in, the harder the Alcaraz second serves would have been. He doesn't have the ability to actually take time away and be aggressive off of that shot. He also doesn't necessarily have that big kind of tier 1 weight of shot to be able to stand really, really deep in the court and do a ton of damage. So what Medvedev will normally do is hit a neutralizing return and then move up on the baseline. That is great when you're returning first serve, but I think on grass, particularly after watching what Tiafoe did to Alcaraz's second serve at times and what Hugo Humbert did to Alcaraz's second serve at times, and what an opportunity Carlitos' second serve can be to get a quick advantage in the point. Medvedev, he does a lot of other things better than Humbert and Tiafoe, but that is one thing he does not do better, is attack the second serve, and I felt that was missing. It was a missed opportunity because Alcaraz was starting most of his second serve points either from neutral or sometimes in attack. Alcaraz, on the other hand, against Medvedev's second serve, now percentage-wise, he was only 5 percentage points better because Medvedev won 54% of his second serve points, which is also a decent number. It's just not, 61% is more than decent. It is a terrific, dominant number. It just looked really different. Even though 54% is all right, Medvedev was getting attacked. He was being put in discomfort. He was having to absorb something of really high quality from Alcaraz, and Carlitos has both options when it comes to attacking the second serve. And there were times, especially on the ad side, where he took the ball as early as possible off of the Medvedev kick serve on the second, and he can be inside the baseline. He has shorter takebacks, but also just really, really quick hands. And he plays with one of the lightest rackets you'll ever see a pro play with. And that helps for this kind of thing. So he's able to prepare and move the racket through the hitting zone really quickly when it comes to taking the ball early. He can also move back, create more forehands, and just obliterate the tennis ball from a deeper position. So he could move back, give himself time, take a full cut, and do serious damage that way. He did miss a lot on the deuce side trying to do that. But essentially, I think the difference here where you have Alcaraz hitting second serves and then getting to play a neutral rally or be in a great position and get to be offensive versus Medvedev hitting second serves and he's getting attacked, I think that's a key difference. And then you even have a slight difference in the double fault proneness because Medvedev double faulted 6 times and Alcaraz twice. And that's a small thing if you look at the overall pie, but it's something. As far as the first serve is concerned, Alcaraz's first serve didn't really stand out to me in this match. It was okay, but Medvedev was able to handle it for the most part. I thought Carlitos was pretty effective going big at the body. He did a good job in the third and the fourth set, I think, with his serving. First and second, not so much. Struggled going into Medvedev's forehand, but again, good into the body, really good out wide on the ad side. So, okay, it was a little bit of a mixed bag for Alcaraz serving. But for Medvedev, I would say the same thing. And I pointed out that in these Alcaraz-Medvedev head-to-heads, there's really only one match where I felt Medvedev's serving was a huge, meaningful advantage over Alcaraz, and that was the U.S. Open last year in the semis. And this was another one where I just didn't see Medvedev's serve making a huge impact. This is where you really miss, if you're Medvedev or a Medvedev fan, you really miss the first serve speed of old. He averages 118 miles per hour. The spot serving is solid, and it was enough against Sinner. He got a lot out of it against Sinner. Did not get a lot out of it in this match. He won only 66% of his first serve points. He hit 5 aces in 4 sets, so that's a pretty low number. But ultimately, you don't need to rely on the stats. When you were just watching, there's too many neutralizing returns coming back from Medvedev's perspective. Yeah, Alcaraz deserves a lot of credit for that. His return was really, really good. But it's a problem for Medvedev, however you want to angle it. It's a problem for Medvedev that his first serve just isn't all that damaging, and combined with the fact that his second serve is getting attacked. The other thing, and this also has to do with the 66% first serve points won, I don't think that's only the serve's fault. Because a lot of the time, the serve is your setup shot. And now you have a ball to attack, and you try to stay on top of the rally, and ultimately you try to force an error or hit a winner. This is the aspect of the game that Medvedev, to his credit, was putting himself in position for more often because he was more ruthless with his aggression. If you look at net points, he was at the net 3 times more than Alcaraz. Now, as you would expect, based on the differences in volley level, you had Alcaraz winning 72% of the points, Medvedev winning 63% of the points. And that right there is part of the issue for me with Medvedev. I'll put it this way. When he has a forehand in the middle of the court to attack or a backhand inside the court, whatever it is, I'm not confident necessarily that he's going to win that point as much as I'm confident that Alcaraz is going to win that point if Carlos was in the same position. In other words, when Medvedev has a forehand with time inside the court, I still think Alcaraz has a chance to win the point. And part of that is because Alcaraz's movement is unreal. It was so good in this match. I thought he was flying around the court, and you have to be really, really good as a result to finish the points. Are Medvedev's mid-court ground strokes, his attacking ground strokes, are they consistent enough, particularly the forehand? And the volleys, are they good enough? It's clearly better for Medvedev to give himself a chance to win, to play this attacking style, to hit big and come in. But are there going to be blips? And I thought there were. Second set at 1-2, you look at the break of serve there. That's Daniil's volleys failing him. He had easy volleys in that game that he didn't put away, including on the break point where he had this chest-high forehand volley, and he hit it deep cross court and gave Alcaraz a look at a forehand pass cross, which he nailed. Then you have the third set at 1-1 where you just have Medvedev's forehand causing trouble for him, going off, which happens. It doesn't necessarily happen when he's looking to trade it and he's looking to stay neutral, or he's patiently looking to just apply a little bit of pressure or remain unattackable. Medvedev's forehand misses when he asks it to be more than that. Otherwise, it's an extraordinarily consistent forehand. It's rock solid. When it's not rock solid, it's when he's trying to make it a weapon, which he was in this match, which he does have to do, right? 3-3 in the third. That was the other break. I thought that was more the fault of Medvedev's serve itself. But ultimately, I think the level of finishing skills by Medvedev against Alcaraz's scrambling, that's a problem right now, in that Alcaraz is able to steal too many points from Medvedev. And that's where you get the 66% first serve points won, which isn't nearly high enough. It's not just the serve's fault. It's also the ability to take the advantage that your serve gives you and convert that into a winning point. Good variety by Alcaraz. I will add, he said after the match that he didn't want to get into kind of long, rhythmic baseline rallies, and he did a great job of avoiding that. And by the way, when he didn't, I thought he paid, because I don't have the rally length statistics. I feel like Medvedev won most of the long rallies. I thought particularly early on, but mostly throughout, the shot tolerance did seem to favor Medvedev. Alcaraz would get a little bit antsy once rallies stretched over 10 shots, and he was the less consistent player, and Medvedev was pretty unrelenting in some of those longer baseline exchanges. But Alcaraz broke him up. He sliced a lot to make Medvedev generate with his backhand. Thought that took away Medvedev's backhand down the line in particular, a shot that I don't think had a huge imprint on the match, and it was the shot that had the biggest imprint on the match at the U.S. Open last year in the semifinal. Alcaraz made sure to drop shot a lot. We expected that. He made some good plays with the drop shot, and his serve and volley was extremely successful. So even though Medvedev might stand up a little bit from where he was last year, probably 5 to 8 feet further forward, that doesn't mean that you need to completely get rid of that play. It's still a play that if you're Alcaraz, you can use. And Sinner put it in the bag, and I'm not sure he should have. Alcaraz was still willing to use it, and he got the reward for it. One other point it's one point, but I want to point it out because it's an example of Alcaraz being very tactically aware. On the break point in the third set at 1-1, this is the game where Medvedev's forehand went off on him. They were about to get into a backhand rally, and Alcaraz quickly said, nope, you've already missed 2 forehands in this game. Slice backhand down the line at Medvedev's forehand, and Daniil missed it right away. I just like that moment for Alcaraz. It was a thinking moment. It was an awareness moment. And that's the kind of thing mid-rally that you need to be able to recognize that and make the right decision, and Alcaraz did there. So that's all I got for Alcaraz Medvedev. Let's go on to the second one. Let me start off by saying, despite a straight set win for Djokovic, this was not a boring match. Really fun stuff. Great points. We said he played well. I don't think he should be too disappointed in his performance. I thought he made Djokovic play the most physical sets all tournament. I thought he had the highest level. He brought the highest level that Djokovic has seen all tournament. The fact that Novak was able to pass the test and do some things with his skills that were unbeatable for Musetti is neither here nor there if you're assessing Lorenzo in isolation, where I think he has a lot to be proud of. And Djokovic should also be really pleased, I think, especially with just the fact that he was able to withstand the increased physicality in this match. Let's start with the net stuff, though, because I promised you that I would do a side-by-side comparison after this match of what Taylor Fritz did against Musetti and what Djokovic did against Musetti. And my angle was that Novak is going to take advantage of the net. He's going to come forward and he's going to neutralize Musetti's defense, which has confounded all of his previous opponents up until this point, because he's going to come forward and finish points up there. So here's what we saw. And some people might say net points won percentage, or they might look at how many points total. The best way to do this is you take the total number of points in a match and you look at what percent of those points did the player end up at the net. So for Djokovic, that number was 26%. In a match where 214 total points were played, 26% of those points, Djokovic was at the net. For Fritz, longer match, 281 points, that was 11%. So it's well over double the amount for Djokovic in terms of how frequently he's up there. Then if you look at the win percentage, because it's not just about making a decision to come forward, it's also how good are you at it? And if you look at let's face it, what is the root of the fact that Fritz doesn't come forward? The root of Fritz not coming forward is Fritz isn't comfortable up there. Fritz isn't that good up there. Djokovic is clinical. The volleys are tremendous. Novak won 77%. Fritz, despite going up more selectively, won 61%. So 77 versus 61. Now, if you convert that into the most practical and easy to comprehend stat that I can give you, it would be this. Djokovic won, on average, 14 net points per set. Fritz won 4. I knew that would be the difference coming in between how they played it, and certainly it was. Novak knows how to handle Musetti's defending from deep in the court, which is you cannot, you will not, you do not pound the ball through him. It will not work. You come forward and you drop shot. Let me explain why coming forward works. Not just against the slice, but against someone who is defending from a very deep position, which Musetti likes to do. You get more time to close in on the net. You get more time to react to the passing shot, whether that be going backwards, forwards, right, left. You have an extra split second to do that. And you have more court to volley into. That is why deep position is net rushable. It helps you come forward. Meanwhile, if you're trying to blast the ball past someone from the back, the deeper they are, the harder it is to get through. The more they're covering the court, because the more time they have to get to the spot. After the ball loses the majority of the speed it loses when it hits the court. And of course, the drop shot. Now, this is a lot more intuitive. It doesn't need to be explained, but when someone is deep in the court, it opens up the drop shot. How committed was Novak to the drop shot in this match? Extraordinarily committed. And that also opens up the power, because against someone who likes to hang back, you want them to be thinking about the drop shot so much that they actually move up in the court. And that way, when you actually look to blast a ground stroke down the line, you have a better chance, or wherever you hit it, you have a better chance of actually getting the ball by them. In this match, there was also a pretty massive serve return disparity. There is really no comparison if you look at the position in which they were starting the points from. Every hold felt hard for Musetti, and I was able to get wind of the returns in play stats. 79% returns in play for Djokovic for the match. I don't have what it was the other way, unfortunately. I think every stat page in tennis should have that stat, by the way, and it doesn't, which stinks. But I know that Novak was putting Musetti's serves back in play at 79%. So every hold, as a result, felt kind of hard for Lorenzo. Some holds felt impossible. One break of serve that Novak had where I legitimately don't think Musetti could have done anything better in the game other than hit better serves, because Djokovic's returns were so overwhelming and stifling. On the other hand, Djokovic's serve, it carried him when he needed it to. And in the second set, there was one moment that I did find very significant, which was 5-all love 30. 5-all love 30 in the second set, and Djokovic goes service winner, perfect placement, ace out wide, ace up the tee that hit the edge of the line, and then another ace up the tee. So 4 unreturns in a row from love 30 at 5-all in the second. Come on now. I mean, that's big-time stuff. I'm looking at the tiebreak right now as well. Service winner to start the tiebreak, service winner at 3-1 in the tiebreak. A serve +1 and an overhead on set point at 6-2. Like, you can, if you look at how these points were being played out, Novak's serve consistently had a major impact, putting him in a winning position. And the same just can't be said for Musetti. And by the way, Djokovic won basically every single serve and volley point. He was 12 out of 13 serve and volley points at 2-3 in the third set. I also want to follow up on Lorenzo Musetti's slice. We talked about it a lot after the Fritz match. My verdict in this match, I don't think it did much. I don't think it did much for him. And I think Musetti actually created a lot more positive play in the forehand-to-forehand pattern. And obviously, sometimes he was able to create offense also off of his serve. But as far as the slice backhand, setting up something to attack for Musetti, I saw very little of that. Djokovic had a few options here. 3 main options that I saw quite a bit. And it really depends off of what kind of slice has Musetti hit Novak. Because if he hit the slice very deep into Djokovic's backhand, then Novak would normally respond with a very patient but precise, high-quality, deep backhand cross-court trade. This is what I think he mainly did against Federer in the 2019 Wimbledon final, where the slices were so good that he couldn't really do anything with it, but he could just extend the point another shot and another shot and another shot. And I don't think they got into a lot of like really stubborn long rallies because Musetti kept hitting deep slices into Djokovic's backhand corner. But I felt that when Novak had to withstand Musetti's slice deep in the court, he would just trade it cross court, and there's nothing Musetti could do on the next ball because of the depth or because of the width and the fact that Musetti wasn't able to get a runaround forehand off of that deep backhand slice. There's also the Musetti slice that goes short in the court and tries to put his opponent into an awkward position somewhere inside the baseline. Well, we saw Djokovic just approach off of that ball, as I thought we would, including on a big point in the second set tiebreak at, I think it was love 2. Yeah, love 2. So Musetti said, here's your short backhand slice. And Djokovic says, you think this is awkward? No, this is a slice approach. So he slices deep and forces the error, doesn't even need to hit a volley. The third option, which I saw a ton, actually, was when Musetti's backhand slice was too central. Whenever it was too central, you'd have Djokovic running around and hitting a forehand, usually inside in. So now you just hit a backhand slice out of your ad side corner. I'm going to make you now run into the deuce corner. You're going to have to go run and hit a forehand as a result. You're not going to be able to attack that off of my forehand inside in. Especially because Novak was not pulling himself way out of position to hit forehands. He was only doing that when the Musetti slice was central, and then he would use his big forehand. So, good response off the slice by Djokovic. And then the other thing, the standout shot for Novak to me was actually his drive backhand. I thought he was just hammering that backhand. It was completely in form. It was doing a lot of great work for him. Let me pull up the rally stats here because I haven't actually looked at them. So Djokovic ends up hitting 5 backhand winners. He hit 3 forehand winners from the baseline. He hit more backhand winners from the baseline than forehand. That's rare. He also forced 3 errors off of his backhand, forced 5 errors off of his forehand, but he made far fewer unforced errors off of his backhand. So the backhand was the better ground stroke, but I just think in general it was firing. And there were a couple times where Musetti didn't slice his backhand cross court, where he actually tried to drive it, and Djokovic usually made him pay. I mean, Novak was really ruthless with his backhand, and it's just really working well for him the entire match. So I'll have the final preview coming up a little later today. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.